Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and get straight to what matters. And today, well, we're diving into something pretty urgent. News just broke, actually, putting an entire Indian state on high alert. Happened July 12th. A new deadly Nipah virus infection confirmed in Kerala, India. And this is a virus that tragically kills between 40 and 75% of the people it infects. It's a staggering number. Our main source for this is a recent health report from Al Jazeera, giving us a good look at what's unfolding. So our mission today, we want to unpack what Nipah actually is, understand how it's spreading, especially this pattern in southern India, which is quite concerning, and also look at the bigger picture. What do these spillover events mean for all of us? We want to get you informed quickly on something with real global weight.
Absolutely. And, what's critical here is seeing how these seemingly isolated incidents, they actually fit into a larger global pattern of emerging diseases. So the Nipah virus, NEVA, it's what we call a highly pathogenic zoonotic virus.
Zoonotic meaning?
Meaning it naturally jumps from animals to humans. It's in the Hennevirus genus, related to the Hendra virus found in Australia. And like you said, that fatality rate is just incredibly high, sometimes killing more than half the people infected.
With a rate that high, how does it stack up against other viruses we hear about? What makes Nipah stand out as so dangerous? And where does it normally live?
Well, its natural home, the reservoir, is in large fruit bats, specifically the Pteropodidae family. And these bats, they're found all over Oceania, South and Southeast Asia, even parts of Africa. But the really interesting thing, the bats carry it, but they don't get sick. They're just the carriers.
Okay, so the bats are fine, but they're carrying this deadly virus. How does it actually make that jump over to people?
Right. So the spillover, it can happen through direct contact with the bats themselves,
Right.
but often it involves what we call intermediate hosts, like pigs or horses. They get infected, maybe from bat droppings or saliva, and then humans get it from those animals.
And when it does jump to humans, what does that look like? What are the signs beyond just general illness? Is there anything particularly worrying about how it presents?
Yeah, the range is quite broad, actually. Some people might not show any symptoms at all. Asymptomatic.
Really? No
Symptoms. But then on the other end, you get acute respiratory infections, seizures, and potentially fatal encephalitis.
Encephalitis, that's inflammation of the brain, right?
Exactly. That's often the primary clinical issue affecting the central nervous system. It leads to something called acute encephalitis syndrome, or AES. That's where you see the seizures, the confusion, loss of consciousness.
Okay.
And it doesn't stop there. It can also progress to acute respiratory distress syndrome, ARDS, in the lungs.
Wow. So it hits both the brain and the lungs. How quickly does this all happen after someone's infected?
The incubation period, so the time from infection to symptoms, is generally thought to be about 4 to 14 days.
That sounds incredibly dangerous, especially with that range from no symptoms to fatal brain and lung issues.
Yeah.
But this isn't brand new, right? Nipah has a history.
Oh, definitely. The first time we really saw it in humans was back in 1998.
Where was that?
In Malaysia and Singapore. It hit pig farmers, butchers mainly, people who had close contact with infected pigs.
And was that a large outbreak?
It was significant. Over 250 people infected and sadly more than 100 deaths. A major event.
Okay. And since 98,
Okay.
has it shown up elsewhere? Maybe spreading differently?
Yes, absolutely. Bangladesh, for instance, has had outbreaks almost every single year since 2001.
Almost yearly. Wow. Is the transmission route the same there through pigs?
No, that's what's interesting. In Bangladesh, it's been linked to people drinking raw date palm sap.
Sap from a tree. How does that connect?
The thinking is that infected fruit bats contaminate the sap, maybe with urine or saliva as it's being collected.
Right, I see. Different pathway entirely.
Yeah.
Any other examples?
Uh-huh. The Philippines saw some cases in 2014. Those were linked to slaughtering infected horses and eating the meat.
Horses, too. So pigs, palm sap, horses. It finds different ways.
Exactly. And even within India, before Kerala, there were outbreaks in West Bengal back in 2001 and 2007.
Okay, so it wasn't totally new to India, just new to the south of India when it hit Kerala.
Precisely. South India's first known encounter was Kerala in 2018. That outbreak had 19 confirmed cases and 17 people died, a very high mortality rate there. And since that 2018 event, Kerala seems to be reporting these Nipah spillovers almost every year now.
Which brings us right up to the current situation in Kerala, because it really does seem different there. This latest case, confirmed July 12th in the Palakkad district, it's the 10th time Nipah has spilled over in Kerala just since 2018. And this year alone, already 4 cases, including 2 deaths. And they're all clustered geographically, right? Within a pretty small radius.
Yeah, about a 50-kilometer, 30-mile radius. It's a tight area. And the state is understandably still on high alert. They're monitoring, 675 people across 5 districts?
But here's something that seems, well, counterintuitive. You said 10 spillovers, but are these big outbreaks each time?
No, and that's a key point. Unlike that first big 2018 outbreak, most of the recent incidents in Kerala have been just single cases, not large clusters spreading person to person.
Single cases.
Mostly. Out of those 10 spillovers since 2018, only 2 actually resulted in human-to-human transmission, creating a larger outbreak.
So the increase in reported cases isn't necessarily Nipah suddenly spreading like wildfire between people there.
Correct. Experts on the ground, like Dr. Anish from the Kerala One Health Center, suggest it's more about detection. Their surveillance system is much stronger now. He basically said, because the whole health system is looking for Nipah, they're simply finding more of these spillover infections when they happen.
Okay, that makes sense. Better surveillance means finding cases you might have missed before. But if they are mostly single cases just popping up independently, what does that tell us? Is it about the virus itself being less transmissible between humans there? Or is it more about how often it's jumping from bats in that specific region?
That is the crucial question, isn't it? It seems to point less towards a runaway human-to-human transmission problem and more towards a very high concentration of infected bats, or at least the virus, in certain specific locations at certain times.
So, localized hotspots of risk.
Exactly. It suggests that in these particular pockets of Kerala, the local bat populations might be highly infectious, perhaps seasonally, leading to these repeated but often contained spillovers.
But what's still really puzzling, you mentioned earlier, is how it's spilling over in Kerala. If it's not the date palm sap, like Bangladesh, what is it?
That's the mystery. There's no single obvious source identified yet. The best guess is, well, sporadic contact with infected bats, or maybe their droppings, or possibly people eating fruit contaminated by bats.
Oh.
But here's the catch. Tests done on fruit samples so far haven't found the virus.
So no smoking gun yet, just these recurring isolated jumps.
Right. And this uncertainty, this lack of a clear how, leads us to a really interesting and potentially quite concerning new idea.
Oh, what's that?
There's a recent paper from the Indian Council of Medical Research proposing that Nipah might actually be airborne.
Airborne. You mean like floating in the air, not just on surfaces or through direct contact?
Potentially, yes, like how tuberculosis spreads. Tiny microbes suspended in the air, possibly traveling over longer distances than we thought.
Wow.
The researchers behind this paper argue that an airborne route could explain these rare but recurring spillovers in Kerala, especially in situations where there isn't an obvious intermediary, like the pigs in Malaysia or the sap in Bangladesh.
If that airborne idea turns out to be true, that changes everything, doesn't it? The risk calculation, how you try to prevent it.
It absolutely would. It shifts the focus dramatically, from avoiding specific contaminated things to potentially needing precautions related to air quality or proximity in certain zones during high-risk periods. It's a stark reminder of how much we're still learning.
Okay, so if that's a possibility, how is Kerala managing right now? You said they're detecting more cases, but are they actually stopping them from spreading widely? Have they been successful?
Remarkably so, actually. Considering the potential, yes. Across those 10 spillover events since 2018, the total number of infected people is only 37.
Only 37 in total from 10 separate events. That is successful containment for such a deadly virus. How are they doing it?
Their system relies heavily on very strong surveillance, first off. As soon as a Nipah case is confirmed,
They jump into action.
immediately, they trace all primary contacts, anyone who was close to the patient. Those contacts go into monitored house quarantine right away, and if any contact tests positive, they start antiviral treatment instantly.
How critical is getting that treatment started early? Does it make a real difference with Nipah, given how fatal it can be?
Oh, absolutely critical. Dr. Anish stated it quite clearly. In our experience, if we can treat Nipah early, it can definitely be cured. Treating those contacts early, sometimes even prophylactically with broad-spectrum antivirals, seems to have significantly cut down the death rate compared to what it could be.
That's incredible news. Prophylactic treatment, so giving medicine even before symptoms, just based on exposure risk.
In some high-risk contact situations, yes. They also use something called syndromic surveillance.
Syndromic surveillance.
Basically, any patient showing up at a hospital anywhere in the state with symptoms that could be Nipah, like that acute encephalitis syndrome or acute respiratory distress syndrome we talked about, they get tested for Nipah, just in case.
The wide net. Makes sense.
And Kerala's built up its capacity too. They now have 4 labs in the state that can run the RT-PCR tests needed for detecting active Nipah infections. That's the gold standard genetic test.
It really sounds like a textbook public health response, honestly. Fast, thorough, using the best tech.
It really is. And underpinning all of that, is political commitment. The state government ensures the entire health system stays focused and mobilized when these outbreaks happen. That's crucial for making it all work.
That level of focus and success is genuinely impressive. But looking forward, what about specific weapons against Nipah? Are there targeted drugs or a vaccine on the horizon?
Well, right now, there are no drugs specifically designed only for Nipah. That's still a gap. But because the stakes are so high, they do use broad-spectrum antivirals drugs that work against a range of viruses.
Which ones have they found useful?
Ribavirin has been sort of the main choice, and it has shown some effectiveness. And interestingly, during the 2023 outbreak in Kerala, they found that using remdesivir early also seemed to improve survival rates.
Remdesivir. Okay. We heard a lot about that during COVID.
Exactly. And for individuals considered very high risk, they've also used monoclonal antibodies.
Ah, those lab-made antibodies to help fight the infection.
Precisely, to try and prevent the disease from becoming severe in those most vulnerable contacts.
Okay, so some treatment options, even if not Nipah specific yet. What about a vaccine? Is that being worked on? That seems like the ultimate goal.
It definitely is, and there's some hopeful progress there. The World Health Organization, the WHO, they've flagged Nipah as a priority disease for research and development. And notably, the University of Oxford has a Nipah vaccine candidate. It actually started phase 1 human trials back in January.
In human trials already, that's promising.
Yes, and just this June, it got support from the European Medicines Agency's Priority Medicines Scheme, which can help speed up development and review. So things are moving.
That's really good to hear. But stepping back from the immediate medical response, this whole situation with Nipah, especially in Kerala, it really drives home a bigger point, doesn't it? This connection between animal health, human health, the environment.
Absolutely. Nipah is almost a perfect, if tragic, case study for what we call the One Health approach.
Explain that a bit more. What does One Health really mean in practice?
It's the recognition, the understanding that human health, animal health, both domestic and wildlife, and the health of our environment are all deeply interconnected. You can't really address one without considering the others.
And why is that perspective so vital right now, especially with viruses like Nipah?
Well, look at the numbers. Around 60% of all emerging infectious diseases in humans are zoonoses. They come from animals.
60%? That's huge.
It is. And why are they emerging more often? Primarily because of ecological disruption. Humans pushing into wildlife habitats. Deforestation, urbanization.
We're changing the environment, and that's increasing our contact with animal diseases we weren't exposed to before.
Exactly. And then you layer climate change on top of that. Rising temperatures can affect where animals live, how viruses behave, even the timing and intensity of viral loads in carriers like bats. It changes the whole dynamic of human-animal interaction.
So Nipah isn't just a virus problem. It's an ecological problem, a climate problem. It's all tangled together.
That's the core of One Health. It forces us to see these links. Every decision about land use, about conservation, about climate policy, it has potential public health consequences down the line. Nipah is a harsh reminder of that.
Okay, let's just quickly recap then. We've explored Nipah, this really dangerous virus, its different ways of spreading around the world. We look closely at Kerala's unique situation, these frequent yet often contained spillovers, the mystery around how it's spreading there, and that really intriguing airborne possibility. And we also highlighted Kerala's impressive public health response, acting almost as a model for how to contain such a threat.
And the treatments being used, the vaccine progress, and critically, how this all points towards needing that broader One Health perspective.
Right. So this deep dive into Nipah, it really does leave you thinking, doesn't it? It underlines just how tied our own health is to the health of the natural world. And it makes you wonder, as we continue to expand, as our climate keeps changing, what other hidden connections between human, animal, and environmental health are we going to uncover? And maybe more importantly, what does understanding these connections mean for stopping the next big health challenge before it starts? Something to keep thinking about. We'll continue exploring these kinds of questions right here on The Deep Dive.